Hey everybody, welcome back. This has been an awesome episode. I just got done interviewing Brendan Valdes. He's a guy I worked with early on in StarCraft 2, and we've done several other shows together. We've done a bunch of odd job casts with different games. We talk about that a little bit in the podcast, and we talked about a lot of really interesting stuff. Before we jump into this episode, please support us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Tasteless Podcast. The support you give us there goes to help make this podcast more awesome. I think we're up to 44 Patreons. If we get to 100, I will be doing a bonus podcast AMA. That's patreon.com/Tasteless Podcast. And without further ado, our episode with Brendan Valdes. Brendan Valdes, thank you for joining us here on the podcast.
Hey, what's up, Nick? Glad to finally join. Happy to be here.
Yeah, man. I'm really excited to have you on. I haven't seen you that much lately because you've been casting a ton of League of Legends. I've been doing a lot of StarCraft 1 and StarCraft 2. I used to see you all the time because we were doing Pro League together at Expo TV. But yeah, we've all been crazy busy out here. So how are things going for you?
Going really well. Things are going very smoothly over at the LCK, doing the Riot job right now, having a lot of fun. Me and Atlas, who was on the podcast before.
Yes.
The two play-by-plays over there. Definitely a fun time so far.
Now, that is a much longer day of broadcasting than what we did in StarCraft 2.
Yeah, I found
think,
it...
What is it, 5 hours? 4 and
I'd
a
say
half?
average is about 5 hours. 5 to 5.5 is about how long it takes. I found the step up in stamina that you need to cast that game very interesting because doing StarCraft, when I first started, that seemed very hard. But then when I started doing League of Legends, I'm like, oh man. And a lot of downtime to fill as well. So it's definitely it's a tiring game to cast for sure.
Yeah, it's funny because I'll occasionally tune in and check in on you guys, and it's usually on a night I'm not working, so I'm in the house doing stuff and I have it on. But it seems like the League of Legends, at least the LCK broadcasts out here, a lot longer than what we normally do in StarCraft. In StarCraft 2, I'll tell you what, GSL, that's about a 3 to 3.5 hour broadcast, and that's usually round of 32 is my longest, most challenging day of work.
Yeah.
And then, obviously I think a shorter broadcast just becomes easier inherently, unless it's so short. Like I've had some days at ASL where it's so short I feel like I wasn't even warmed up. It's like a best of 5 Zerg versus Zerg. That just it could sometimes end in 35 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's what was that transition like trying to get ready for a marathon cast like that? Because you probably only have 4 commercial breaks or 3 commercial breaks.
Well, the way they do it now is they have a break in the middle. Like they have set starting times.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So it's 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. So if we end the first set at like 6:45, which happens sometimes, then we're waiting for over an hour to start the next set. So sometimes you get a really big break, and in between the 2 sets, it'll be minimum like 25 minutes. So you do get that break in the middle at least to like recharge for the next 2 teams that are going to come out, and the broadcast kind of like restarts again. It's like two broadcasts of 2 best of 3s when you think about it that way, and it's a nice break in the middle for sure. Just to you have some food, right? You get your dinner, and you can recharge for the next set.
Do you feel like when you eat in between that broadcast that slows you down a little bit? I found sometimes if I eat like on a commercial break, I suddenly hit this food coma where Artosis is talking, and I suddenly realized I didn't hear what he said because I had a sandwich or something on the commercial break, and all the blood that should be in my brain is now in my stomach.
Yeah, it can slow you down, especially if you have a little bit too much, right? If you have 1.5 doshiroks or something like that, right?
Yeah.
A couple extra lunch boxes, and it can be rough for that for sure. So it's important to monitor your food levels, I guess.
I had this at KSL. There's this bakery. We're in the basement floor of this really nice building, and this bakery on the first floor is this award-winning bakery. And I'm not much of a bread guy, really.
Oh yeah,
but I've just started eating these pastries, and I've had some of the most out of it moments ever when I'm in a cast where I was like, oh, I should not have eaten that.
Yeah.
I don't know, some croissant sandwich. Or it's only, I can't focus at all. And then you start at 5 p.m., right?
5 p.m., yeah.
You have that best of 3, and then the break in the middle obviously varies.
Yeah.
And then when do you normally end up getting out of the studio?
If it's a quick day, we'll be out by 10, maybe like 9:50 on a really super fast day. But the latest I've gone has been like 11:30. So you can get those really long marathon broadcasts where you do, we call it the 6-game broadcast, right? Because it's 2 best-of-3s, right? It goes all the way to game 3. You get some slower teams like Jin Air or Genji in there, and it's like, well, the second set even starts at 9 p.m., so it can get really, really late. I know that Atlas has done some broadcasts that went to 12 or even later, and it's you can really run into issues, especially if you have like a pause or anything like that. That's when you know you're really in for a long day.
Yeah, when Danemy, especially the first season or 2 at GSL, now things are very streamlined, whether it's League or StarCraft. It's a very streamlined process of like, okay, you get the players in there, you do this, you bang them out, and then you go to a commercial break. But when we first started, people would pause constantly. You get players that were nervous and would accidentally mute their own sound. Yeah. And think that they're... So we ended up with all these pauses constantly. And, as a caster, that's the moment when you go, oh, fuck, a pause. Because you don't know how long that delay is going to be. And it's always this weird moment where you're trying to economize what you're going to talk about with your co-host, and you don't know. This could be a 2-minute pause. If it's a 2-minute pause, no problem. But, sometimes you have those pauses where it goes to 30 minutes, and maybe your producer doesn't throw to a commercial.
Often the choice that they make, by the way.
Yes, often.
It's not like it's a 10-minute pause, and they're like, oh, yeah, we should go to a commercial break. I don't think I've ever actually had that happen to me. It's at least like 15 minutes, and they have to get to a point where they're like, oh, this is an issue we can't solve right now, so we have to go to a break. Otherwise... the casters are going to be on for 40 minutes straight, which has also happened.
Yeah, that's such a weird feeling too, because you're kind of chained to the desk in a way, right?
Yeah.
You can't take the headphones off unless somebody like a producer talks into your ears. It's just you and the co-host. For the people that are listening to this, when you're doing a cast like that, there's really not much you can hear in the venue.
Yeah, not really. No,
you're kind of in this weird. It's sort of like the setup we have now. We both have headphones on now, but everything else is sort of a distant sound, so there's almost no communication you can have anywhere else, and you're sort of just there trying to fill time, and it's totally weird. Do you guys still have a lot of pauses now in League? I feel
after Riot took over, it's been very smooth. Which,
really?
A lot of people expected it to, Riot taking over the broadcast, Riot Korea to be specific, right? They had to hire a lot of people and get this whole thing up and running. And it was in a new venue that they had just created, right, the LOL Park. And a lot of people were saying, oh, now that they're kind of new to this thing, not Riot Central, right? They've been doing this for a long time, but Riot Korea, how are they going to make it smooth and have it go well? But we've been pleasantly surprised. It's been very smooth, and they take care of the issues very fast. So no complaining there. It's been a great experience, at least for pauses over at the LOL Park. That's amazing, because you have pauses like that, especially when we're talking about long days like what you guys are doing, because your broadcasts are much longer. Even an extra half hour to an hour longer, that's a lot of extra stamina. So then what you said you get at about 11:30, is that correct? That's for the really late days.
For a really late day.
That would be a marathon broadcast, probably one that goes to 6 games. Then you're looking at 11 at the earliest.
Something I've talked to a lot of casters out here. I feel like the casting situation is a little bit unique in that we have these block studio events that are regular out here versus a lot of these weekend events or sometimes week-long events. You go to China or Germany and work over a weekend, over a week, and it's a marathon. The pay is usually really good, and then you're done. You're out.
Yeah.
Out here, we've got these little blocks that we have to do stuff in. And your day is kind of all tailored around that when you're a caster. When you get done with work. Now, the only person I know who can go to sleep right after a cast is actually Artosis.
Really?
Yeah. He just gets on a train and goes home, and I think he's a sociopath, and his heart rate has never increased in his whole life. He can just turn off and go to bed, which is something I've always envied about him. I have trouble sleeping, but I've always found after I do a broadcast, I need to decompress, or I need to kind of get away from a screen, for instance. Do you have any kind of decompression process after a long broadcast like that?
Well, I do like to. This is actually something that I think Wolf learned from you, and I learned from Wolf because I did a lot of casting with Wolf in the beginning, right, in 2014 when I was first going, full time. It would just be after every broadcast. It's like this kind of required thing, not exactly like you have to do this, but we both wanted to just, meet up at the local CVS or Mart and get a beer, right? And just talk about the cast.
Do a post-op, basically. Like, what happened back there?
What went bad, what went well, or, how do you feel right now? Or just to, relax, shoot the shit, and just, decompress like you were talking about.
Yeah, I've always found that if you don't do some kind of a post-broadcast assessment, especially when you're broadcasting with different people, it's really hard to kind of know what went right and what went wrong. Everybody sort of reacts differently. Just like normal humans interacting. Some people have a sense of humor about certain things. Other people are trying to focus on a certain task and can be distracted by other stuff.
Yeah.
But I've always found for me, and I was wondering, same thing for you, is that you kind of want to go sit down, have a beer, and say, okay, so how did that go?
Yeah, and even if I don't do that, like if we don't go out every time or anything like that, like sometimes I'll have to go home and just like chill out for a while. I'm not really a guy that has to get away from screens. I actually, like, I finish the broadcast, I'm going back home on the bus, I'm looking at my phone, right? I'm playing a phone game, then I go back home, I turn on the computer, and I'm watching a stream, or I'm, like, playing something relaxing, right?
Yeah.
Not League of Legends solo queue, maybe, like, a card game, something like that, Something I can set my mind at ease, but, kind of enjoy at the same time.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to our toasts about this. The one thing that we don't feel like we want to do immediately after a cast is play StarCraft.
Yeah.
I could do it before, for sure, but right after, I'm like, nope, this part of my brain was used up somehow. And I don't know, I need to let it rest. So with your co-hosts, do you guys have a similar thing? Do you guys all get together and because you guys are on a bit of a rotation there, if I understand correctly. Do you guys have a similar process over there for you guys where you all sit down together and try to sort out what was good and bad about the broadcast?
Well, that's the interesting thing, the rotation you were mentioning.
Yeah.
I cast with two very different personalities. One is Papa Smithy, who is a very social guy, likes to go out, likes to talk about things, really likes to talk about esports, stuff like that, and is always interested in, like, what can we do better on the broadcast and, like, getting out there. And then I also cast with LS.
So this is Last Shadow for the people that played StarCraft 1. Because I used to play StarCraft 1 against him, but he's now a league caster with you. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so LS, he doesn't like to be called Last Shadow anymore. He's like, no, actually, my name is LS.
His name is Last Shadow, for the record. It's too late. I already blew the lid on that.
Yeah.
Actually, excellent StarCraft 1 player. Sorry, go ahead, please.
And excellent in League as well. He's doing his coaching thing, streaming, right? He's been very successful in the switch over to League of Legends, but he's definitely very different compared to Papa Smithy. He wants to get home, relax in his home environment, maybe get back and do a stream. He's got more these work hours where he is usually up at night doing the stream rather than up during the day. So, like, he's not really gonna come out with me and he's also not really he doesn't really like to drink alcohol that often.
Right.
So you have to take a different approach from my stance, right? When I'm with Papa Smithy, we can go out afterwards, get a beer, talk about it right then and there. But what I find with LS is much better to do it before the broadcast. Like, just talk about, like, what happened the last time, or what are we going to do this time? Like, what's the plan? I feel like LS is much better talking about that, whereas Papa Smithy's a little bit different in that sense because he likes to bring out things naturally during the broadcast and not really talk about it before. He's like, I have this thing that I want to talk to you about it, but I'm going to bring it up during the broadcast. So he would like to save that content, essentially, with the quotations, for the broadcast.
So when he says that, he means he's got this thing he wants to say, but he wants to have your natural reaction.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Dan and me have that where usually we have it with jokes, but occasionally we'll have it with just an idea.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to say this thing, but you might have to let me go on for a little bit at the start of the show.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot I'm trying to unpack here. Or I have this thing I've thought of.
Yeah.
Just so you know, I'm gonna be planting a joke on you on some level.
Yeah.
We usually have that in the break. What is it like to switch from a StarCraft cast to a League cast? Because one thing about StarCraft I've noticed is because the maps are so incredibly different, you end up with different situations where I feel like in League, and please correct me if I'm wrong, there just seems to be more of a locked-on pattern from early game to mid-game to end-game.
I would say in a sense that is true, but there are just now I think it's like 140 champions, something like that. So just like Dota or any other big MOBA that's been around for a long time, there is just so much variety that you can get within the game just based on the different combinations of champions. But you are correct in saying like it is just one map. Like these champions are usually going to go in one location. You know, a couple of them can be flex and stuff like that. But an early game is going to look like this. They're going to be farming. A mid game, there's going to be a couple of fights, and then a late game, if we get to it, is going to be more of like a lockdown, a slow, process to eventually build up to a big climactic fight towards the end. So it usually does have a similar story in terms of that, but the characters are always different, and the way that they interact with each other and against each other is always different. So it's kind of like, any kind of battle royale where it's like we all have similar abilities, but we're all always coming out here on the same map and approaching it in a different way.
Yeah, it's do you feel like there's a certain routine that you have when you're doing a broadcast like that? Like for me, I've always found, obviously there's certain structures you just want to wait for, and you're trying to avoid redundancy, right? You're trying to not just say the same thing every cast.
Oh, yeah. Play-by-plays in League of Legends can be caught by that a lot because in League of Legends, you just get these big downtimes. And StarCraft used to have this. I remember I came in right at the beginning of Heart of the Swarm. And
that was a bad expansion, man. That was if you were a caster, if you worked in television for that game at that time, that was a really hard one because the Swarm host would drag the game out into eternity. Yeah. It was weird too because we'd get more viewers in Swarm host games.
Because it would be just going on for longer, right?
Well, and people would kind of be watching, going, "What the hell's going on here?"
Yeah,
this game's been going on for a long 20 minutes and it's not close to finishing.
Yeah.
But yeah, those were much slower. Now they've sped it up. They give the players more workers and things kind of get to their logical conclusion, which I think is better for TV, for esports, for StarCraft 2. But totally different game back then.
Oh, absolutely. And it kind of reminded me of that. So I started in Heart of the Swarm doing like the full-time thing for StarCraft, and some of those games, especially when you're new, it's like, what do I even say? I have no idea what to say in this moment in time. I just talked about like the current state of the game, and then Wolf responded, and then he threw it back to me, and I'm like, well, there's nothing else to say about the game. It's literally like we've been in the same spot for 20 minutes. And just to bring it back to League of Legends, that can happen pretty often, especially in slower games where it's one slow team against another slow team. They both have late game compositions, and it's like, well, these guys, they fought a little bit, but now they're going to sit here and farm for 20 minutes. Yeah. So as a play-by-play in Korea, you have two choices. You can talk about the game and kind of fake hype it in a way, like you always want to be quote unquote professional and like only talk about the game and keep it on topic, right? But something that you guys have done, and we've kind of taken a page out of that book, is to just stop talking about the game and just talk about anything else, right?
Shoot
because
the shit a little. Yeah.
When the games are bad, people actually don't want to know about the game. They can see that nobody's fighting and it's boring, and Twitch chat is going to spam Resident Sleeper, and there's nothing you can say about the game to make it interesting at that point. So you have to not talk about the game. But the thing that I like about that, at least as a caster that's been doing it for a while now is that it's challenging to actually to cast in those moments, because I feel like as a play-by-play, when you're casting a really great game with a lot of action, you can kind of just do your thing, right? You can shout a lot, you can, make a lot of hype and talk about stuff in the game because a lot of stuff is happening during the game. But when you're not, it's just all improvisation and like your chemistry with your co-caster. You have to be entertaining and keep up a good conversation. Otherwise, people are going to be like, this caster sucks. He's boring, because you can't make the game fun. And if you can't be fun yourself, then, you don't really have much else to go on.
This has been, I think, for a lot of, this is really cool we're talking about this, because this has been a thing I think a lot of casters have had to try to struggle with, is moments of extreme downtime. And and what is your relationship like with your audience? Because I found myself in past casts, I end up becoming almost disingenuous or trying to, and I hate that in myself. If I find myself doing that, or I'm just, if I'm peddling bullshit, because I know when something's hype and when it's not hype, but I also know when something is potentially redundant and we can have some fun with it. Mm-hmm. And as long as we try to stay stuck on the game still in case something dramatic does happen, we can absolutely have fun. But this form of broadcasting is very strange in that it is, for the most part, 2, occasionally 3 individuals broadcasting for hours.
Yeah.
With no one else hopping in. At these marathon events like IEM, you have somebody who, you have 4 people on a desk. Yeah. You can throw 2, and there's a little bit more of a balance between, who's holding the ball.
Yeah.
Who's doing this? But particularly in Korea, these are long form broadcasts with just 2 people. At GSL we have sometimes 3 or 4, basically 3.5-minute breaks. Yeah. So that's,
I don't know how you guys
enough
do that,
time
by
to
the way.
go to the bathroom if you've got a number 1 and not a number 2.
Yeah.
It's a lot of time on camera, and I've always been sort of fascinated with what some viewers like, what some publishers like, because I feel like I've heard every possible type that people like. I've heard people say, you should never not talk about the game. Yeah. I've heard that you should never that you should not be talking about other games.
Oh, yeah.
Which is one that always gets weird with publishers. I've heard that this is hilarious, and this is exactly why I tune in, is to hear you guys talk, and I like StarCraft, or League of Legends in your case. But yeah, I've always found that, like, people that watch games and play a lot of games at a competitive level are intelligent. And intelligent people tend to have a sense of humor. Mm-hmm. And I've just thought, this is so much more fun if we're actually just all having fun together. Yeah. And we're kind of hanging out, and this is a cool thing to do. And I know that, and this is all pretty long ago, but like in the early esports days, a lot of people really wanted to model this off of some kind of serious face, I know I wear a blazer and a tie when I do this, but I guess
very serious caster, tasteless.
A serious face kind of broadcast, and this all has to be very hyper analytical, and there's no room for humor here. And I think it's been proven basically with these Korean broadcasts getting so much viewership, people are actually okay with this being fun and more low key. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Just you were talking specifically about Korea with this kind of style, like you guys kind of brought it to a high level of popularity, right? You and Dan, and I think with other regions, right? You think about League of Legends in America or even Europe, they almost feel this pressure, especially because their voices are going out to the audience that are listening live. It feels much harder to just stop talking about the game for 15 minutes if you have all these people that like paid for tickets that are there. They traveled to the studio and they kind of want that feel that, Riot is pushing for in those regions as well. Right, whereas out here, it's like we get all the freedom in the world. Like we might have somebody from Riot listening to us, but they're never going to step in and be like, oh no, you can't say that. Or like, don't do this, don't do that. They don't really tell us to do much at all. So we kind of just one day we could talk only about the game, and then the next day, if it's a bad game, we can just not even talk about the game at all, and nobody's going to say anything. So that level of freedom is also, I feel, why we're able to do this in the first place.
Yeah, I think with Dan and me, what happened was we didn't have anybody that was, like, I guess, helping us, quote-unquote helping us.
Yeah.
When we started doing this. But we did initially, at the company, there was this lady who was there who kept interfering with our work. She'd come up and say, "Don't say nerd."
Oh, yeah.
There was like some little war. This is like the first season of GSL. There was this little war going on. And she didn't like, I think she wanted to have us fired, to be honest.
Really?
This lady wanted to have us fired, and she actually contacted some other casters who were our friends.
Wow.
I don't think, and we're like, we even said, we know those. Why did you contact them? They're going to come tell us. But one of her big, she was a stickler over this. She said, "You can't say nerd. This isn't nerdy. You're insulting our audience." And I said, "What are you talking about? This is the nerdiest fucking thing in the world. It's a computer game tournament that we're all so into."
Yeah.
Everybody here's, I'm a nerd. Everybody's a nerd. But I don't know. There was some pushback eventually. I think she got fired or she got let go or whatever. And then we were able to they kind of left us alone because at that point in time, they had basically figured out, this is all back at GOM TV, like totally different company. But
way back in the day.
They were like, okay, well, the viewers are happy with this. And they were so concerned at GOM. Just to make it clear for the listeners, GOM TV was what owned the GSL.
Yeah.
Now the GSL has been purchased by Africa TV, so it's a totally different set of people that we're working with. But, yeah, I mean, they were so concerned with trying to make this big in Korea, on the Korean broadcast, they kind of let us do our own thing. And then we were able to work on that and try to make, kind of having fun, casual style, and trying to mix that with hype. But I have noticed, when you work in, let's take LA, for instance. The number of people you have involved in a broadcast, I don't know if you're able to get away with that kind of fun. I don't know if it's the right environment to have that fun, because it's also hard to have comedy in a cast if it's done over a speaker in an auditorium.
Yeah, exactly.
The vibe is different.
Yeah.
Versus, when I cast GSL, when you're casting League of Legends, it's you're talking to the people at home at their computers.
Yeah, it's a difference in the style of the broadcast, where I remember doing, what was that event? I think it was Katowice. The one time that you guys actually couldn't go, that one time I filled in for you.
I think we were when you were in Katowice?
Yeah, it was 2016. For some reason, you guys couldn't make it.
Dan and me were in the middle of renewing our work visas here.
Right, yeah.
And therefore, we couldn't have our passports.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Thank you for
So they were like, we need someone from Korea. I guess Valdes is going to do it. And it was one of my first international events for StarCraft 2, and I remember being really hyped about it. And then just having your voice go out to that many people,
it's
especially
weird.
By the semifinals, I remember in that gigantic, I think it was the Spodek Arena, is that the name?
Yeah, Spodek.
And there were something like 11,000, they said, and I'm like, what? That's not the place. Obviously, a semifinals is not really the place to go for that kind of, very relaxed style anyway. But even in the quarterfinals and before, some of the games were just one guy was super far ahead, but it took him 15 minutes to end the game, right? And at some point, you're just saying, yeah, this guy has no chance.
This guy's fucked, everyone.
can't you see how far behind he is?
Yeah.
And you just run out of things to say about that. So it would have been the perfect time to use this style of broadcasting. But even then, just the energy from the crowd and having them right there, next to you, I guess it just felt more uncomfortable to go for that kind of style. Whereas casting in Korea only to the internet is more of a podcast style, right? Where it's people are just listening to your voices over the game as if it's a separate file, in a way.
Yeah.
And
it's more intimate, I think.
Definitely.
I mean,
for
even
sure.
when you hear first of all, it's totally weird when you hear your voice going out.
Yeah.
Into an auditorium, and you go, oh my god.
Oh yeah, the first time I was like, whoa.
You're like,
I'm not really okay with this, but I have to be.
I remember I thought this at times. I thought, should they have really let me do this? There's actually a really cringy clip on the internet of, because the first time I ever did it in front of a real audience.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say real audience. I did some casting in New York after my brother wrecked me, and then he went on to win the USA Finals.
Yeah.
Day 9. But the room I was casting to was like the other players and the staff that worked there, so it didn't feel weird. And then I got hired to go to Singapore, and it was like one of the biggest stages I've ever been on to this day.
Really? How many people were there?
I did not ask. I got there and I thought, I said, my voice isn't going out here, right? And they go, oh yeah, it is. And I thought, oh, I'm so fucked. I've never done this. And
that's scary.
And I heard my voice and I said, are you guys ready? I said, you guys ready? You guys excited? And I went, come on. And my voice broke like, like some gym, some prepubescent teenager, like, coach, I'm ready. Like, and I thought, oh my God, this is
that was it. I
thought I am bombing so hard.
Yeah.
I can't hype this, but yeah, it's a very strange experience to hear your voice go out like that.
Yeah. And to this day, I think Katowice was one of the only places where I've heard that. It doesn't happen very often unless you're going to international tournament that has English speaking viewers or just no main broadcast.
Yeah, that's actually a funny thing as well, is that there are certain countries you can go to where English is not the first language, but you can fill up an entire stadium of people and they will listen to it in English, like Romania.
Yeah.
Everybody, like homeless people speak English in Romania.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. I mean, maybe some of them are not as good, but I mean, I never had any problem speaking English anywhere I went.
Wow.
In Bucharest. And the entire audience filled up the venue. Mm-hmm. And it's like people were making witty jokes in English. I don't know. I mean, some places you go, I mean, you've traveled to Japan, right? Like nobody speaks English at all whatsoever.
No, if you're lost, it's like...
If you're it's actually
I hope
terrifying.
You have a phone to translate, otherwise...
You're stuck.
GG. Yeah.
But you can, for instance, Poland at the Spodek, you can actually fill that up and have that with English commentary.
Yeah.
And the Poles speak English. Their English is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of an incredible thing. Maybe this is our super American side coming out, where I'm like, that's crazy. You guys can just
yeah.
Because
you get a Polish viewer, they're like, yeah, of course.
Like, of course, I speak this in several
this
other
way
languages.
For 30 years.
Yeah. And then you have that awkward moment where you're hanging out with people that work at the venue and you realize everybody's switched into English because you don't speak any Polish.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
But I guess that hadn't occurred to me. You had not done as much or as many broadcasts where your voice was going out to the audience. Were you nervous when that happened, or was it simply an adjustment? What went on in your head?
Well, one of the first times was doing, I think for the quarterfinals of that event, it was also going out, but it was a different setup because we weren't in the main stage of the arena, right? We were like on some side stage while some other game was going on and doing their finals next door. It was probably CSGO at the time, because they would do the finals and the semis on the different days, but we were like in a side room, so even though your voice would go out, you couldn't hear it clearly that it was going out, really. But then once we got into the main arena with all that entire place filled up to the brim and you could feel the energy of just the people talking before the broadcast, and then that's when the adrenaline kicks in. You're like, oh man, this is really happening now.
Yeah,
yeah. It's not like, oh yeah, we're broadcasting back at some random desk in Korea and, nobody can hear a thing I say unless they're, listening online. To 11,000 people are going to instantly react in front of me to my own voice that I can hear.
It's so weird.
It was very nerve-wracking for sure.
Did you ever have any anxiety about public speaking? Was that ever a thing that you struggled with?
Oh yeah. No, I was. I guess this kind of goes back to maybe a story about how I got into broadcasting, but like I had never done anything before I started casting. Like I did not like to speak in front of crowds. I would avoid that at any cost, right? And I had never been on camera before. Like I had done one interview randomly at some like festival or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I just got asked to start broadcasting, and it was too big of an opportunity to pass up. So I was just like, I guess I just have to force myself to do this. I don't know, but it was definitely really nerve-wracking in the beginning, but once you get used to it, I don't know, you just kind of change over time.
When you first did it, I mean, I guess you probably had the adrenaline, right? There's that weird feeling you have right before, someone's counting down in your ear.
Yeah.
And you're going, oh my God, why did I do this?
Yeah.
How quickly did you feel like that feeling dissipated? The anxiety, the fear, or did it stay there and you kind of got comfortable with it?
Well, I'll still get butterflies before like a really big cast, even like not even finals. But if it's like, oh, we got to broadcast like a telecom war, or like the two best teams are going at it and the entire stadium is filled up and we already have like 10,000 viewers before the show started, right? Then it's like, oh man, this really matters in a way. You can feel it. But obviously for finals as well, I did 2018 spring, I think, for LCK, and I was pretty nervous before that broadcast. But the thing about it is, when you're counting down and like when the opening video is playing, like my heart's going so fast, but then like maybe 2-3 minutes in, I'm totally fine. You just have to start. But in the beginning, it's like, oh man, am I gonna be okay? Am I gonna make it? And then it's you're like a little bit too loud when you first come out. You're like, welcome guys,
hey everybody,
oh my, it's so amazing. And then you kind of like settle in.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, it's gonna be fine. I've done this 1,000 times before. It's just gonna be like a more hyped version of everything I've done up until this moment.
Yeah, it's funny because I have the same experience where for me now I almost would say it's adrenaline and not anxiety. Where I've definitely just been like, okay, this is so hype and the build up and the sound. And occasionally I'll almost shake with energy.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. But it's usually not a bad shake, especially if you do any screaming at the start when you're introing.
Yeah.
Because, screaming alone, actually, a lot of people don't realize they've never really screamed or shouted really loudly. That it sort of kind of gets your blood flowing and, it kind of wakes you up. But
normal humans are probably not meant to be shouting for 5 hours in
yeah,
a row,
we're supposed to be in danger. We're not supposed to just be screaming at the top of our lungs. But, yeah, I think it does something to you physiologically. And I'm totally okay with it now, but I went through a similar thing as you did where I had no real, I would say, coaching. I did some debate in college, but that was not, and I was not that good. And it was never in front of like a big audience. It was like, there's like 6 people in the room watching. It's like, the judges and then your friend or something.
That used to be scary to me though. I didn't
Oh,
like
it was
that
scary
at
for
all.
me too. I would get all worked up.
No.
I had some crazy debate coach that was like trying to condition me to become an asshole because, he's there's so many ways you can be sort of a dick when you're arguing or laugh at them. And so so I kind of ended up going into that in a much more emotional way. But for me now with broadcasting, I feel like I'm more calm and composed, but I had to kind of learn that no matter how weird I feel at the start of a show, I am going to fall into sync with how this is going to be anyways. And also, I found that bombing helped. Just not having a good broadcast, did you feel like that helped you in any way? Did you ever feel like you had a broadcast that you weren't doing well in and you knew it and you couldn't save yourself in that moment and you had to get through it?
I think it has happened a couple of times, yes. I think something that I personally had to get over as a broadcaster was that I was being way too safe.
Okay.
I think that your style was prone to have more great broadcasts, but also open you up to some moments where you're like, well, that was that was real bad, right? But I would go in every time and I'd be like, I wouldn't be willing to push myself enough or open up my personality enough because I was scared of making those mistakes, right? But at the same time, it would limit me to a certain level. So I kind of, instead of having like a 10 out of 10 broadcast and a 0 out of 10 broadcast sometimes, it would just be like, I was only in between 3 and 7 all the time.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Now, when you were going for that, was part of that because you're afraid of getting hate or getting your haters going after you and saying, fuck you, Valdes, why are you doing this? Or
well, yes, that definitely did play into it a little bit. When I first started, objectively now I can look back and be like, well, I really don't think I should have been, put on that broadcast right at the beginning, right?
Right.
especially compared to, years later. Now you can look back and easily say, well, I am nowhere near, that level was so much lower than what I'm at now, right? And being able to look back at that kind of makes me feel okay now. But in that moment, definitely I was just like, don't fuck up. Don't say anything too bad. Like, don't get the people to write a hate thread. That could really cause problems for you.
Were you more afraid of not looking knowledgeable, or were you more afraid that someone would attack your personality, or was it something else?
I think it was both, actually. I didn't want people to dislike me in a way, right? I didn't want to be that caster that was like, oh yeah, I really just hate when he's on the mic, right? Like I can't stand his personality. So like the rougher edges of the personalities, the good ones and the bad ones, I just kind of smoothed them out and said, okay, well, we're not going to open myself up to that hate, And also about the knowledge part, I really think when I was going in with Wolf at the time, like I should have been preparing more. I just didn't really know exactly what it took, like what level exactly I needed to be ready to go and be knowledgeable and
you're talking about
prepared
StarCraft
for the game.
2 cast, right?
Yeah, for the StarCraft 2.
I mean, this is a funny thing about StarCraft 2 as well, is that StarCraft 2 is such a fucking hard game.
Yeah.
So when you say, one thing I've personally experienced is that when a lot of these pros would switch over into being casters at more of these big events, so not like the GSLs or any of the StarCraft events that we did out here in Korea, but international events where everybody flies out there, generally the viewers and the players and the casters, we all do the show, everybody goes home again. You have a lot of pros they put on stage to cast or to stay at the desk. The pros would refuse to do any game that wasn't their matchup.
Oh yeah.
And then I've had talks with people, backstage where I said, you have to go on. And they go, well, I don't play Zerg. I say, I don't play Zerg either. But you are a grandmaster at StarCraft, and you have to go out there and just talk about this and think about this out loud, and you don't have to be 100% right, because the idea that you're going to find anybody that is perfectly up to date with every build on every map in the current meta.
Yeah.
I mean, a game that is constantly patched, that is just very, very hard to do. I mean, one of the things I've tried to do with casting GSL is when a patch comes out, I try to make the cast exploratory.
Yeah, just
like, let's just see what happens.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can learn this with the viewers. And maybe I have some ideas I can offer here, or I could, and if you really do fuck up, you get something wrong, you're going to find out either way.
Oh, yeah.
And you could talk to pros and all that as well, and that's very helpful. But, I mean, to go into a game like StarCraft where same matchup, but one map difference completely changes how the whole matchup operates.
Yeah.
It's so much to know. I mean, that had to be such an overwhelming experience for you.
Yeah, I mean, coming in, I played a bunch, right? I thought, oh, well, in order to prepare for the game broadcast, I should play the game, because I'll learn through playing the game.
Actually,
but
let's hold on a second. Let's go back. How
Sure.
did you get into casting? Because somebody might be saying, how in the hell was this guy out here?
Yeah.
How the hell is this guy out here doing this if he wasn't ready to so do you want to just explain that?
I can go over this story. It's a long one.
No,
but,
go ahead.
I think it's a good one.
And then if we can jump back into this. But I just realized, because of the way this started, people might be saying, well, how in the hell were you even casting
why was he in that position?
If you were in this position? Yeah. Hey, we're stopping for a break because people have bladders. You got to understand that, okay? You probably pissed while you were listening to this podcast and didn't even think that we might have to stop as well. But we're also going to make a quick plug here. You're probably tired of hearing it, but I'm going to say it again. I'm sorry. Please support us on Patreon. It does make a big difference here. Patreon.com/Tasteless Podcast. And also, we have supporters on the podcast who are really helping us out a lot. Melty, it's Charlie Sheaver and John Kernicki. And I'm sorry, John Kernicki. I know you personally. I'm just afraid I'm going to fuck your name up. When I'm doing the recording, it's going to go out and you're going to go, fuck, Tasteless. God damn it. I want to say I really appreciate your support, guys. They're each donating $100. That makes a huge difference in paying off the equipment that we're using here. And we have several more podcasts in the tank. We're going to be recording them very soon. And I don't know. This has just been a great experience. I'm loving this conversation with Valdes. I actually had not seen him in at least a couple weeks. We're both so busy. So this conversation has been really fun and enlightening. And we're going to hop back into it now. So here we go. This Tasteless podcast with Valdes continues on.
So as I mentioned before, I was watching your broadcast a lot. You and Dan doing the GSL when I was at college. I was getting really into the StarCraft 2 thing. I was playing a lot of StarCraft 2. Got up to about Master when it was there, NA. So, but was doing pretty well, getting into the esports competitive thing. And for a while, I was like, oh, maybe I should become a pro gamer. This seems kind of fun. I think I have a bit of skill in this. Like, maybe I can do it. So I was going along that direction, playing a lot, and just watching a lot of GSL, right? And it didn't really work out. I wasn't able to grind the ladder as well as I thought I would. Like, I had a bit of ladder anxiety, right?
Oh, you got the ladder anxiety.
I did, yeah, for StarCraft 2. For some reason, like, it was almost like after I decided that I wanted to be a pro gamer, I was like, wait, that means now the pressure's on to perform. In the past, it was just like I was playing for fun, but then once that pressure came in, I was like, oh, I don't know, like, what if I mess up again? Like, I'm gonna hate myself. Like, I don't want this to go wrong, So I was doing that for a while. Didn't really work out, but I always stayed in touch with the esports scene, and eventually switched over to playing a lot of League of Legends when that came out in 2009, 2010. Was playing that a lot. Hit a top level in League as well. Got up to Diamond 1, and I was just really interested in that. I was watching all the Korean esports, very interested in Korea, the culture, and everything about that. So just very involved. And I saw this post on, I think it was Reddit or some other community forum by Azubu, who... I know you know Azubu, right?
Yes.
They
Yes, I did some work with them briefly. They were a company that was a startup in an attempt to compete with Twitch.
Yeah.
Which I actually, by the way, real quick aside, I think that's actually good to have competition. There's this whole problem with the internet where Facebook is the only social media site that people use to interact with their friends. Twitter is the only thing that public figures use.
Yeah. You think about YouTube nowadays, where they just have a total monopoly on all the video content that is recorded, and they're just like demonetizing everything. It's like, whoa,
correct.
Whoa, what's going on?
Yeah. And so Azubu was attempting to do that. It did not succeed in its mission, but it was an attempt to be, something that could compete with Twitch. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and that form that they were trying to get into streaming. That was like their fourth form or something. They were trying many different types of business strategies and ways to do things. But at the time, they were just like a website. They made a bunch of articles, and they were focusing on gaming and stuff like that. And they were also sponsoring OGN the Champions at the time, interestingly enough. And through that, they wanted to do a raffle where they brought out 5 people from around the world. If you sign up for the raffle, you can be flown to Korea, 5 days in Korea and Seoul, VIP tour. They took me up to like Namsan Tower. Well, I guess I skipped a step there. I won the raffle, right? Just randomly.
So your first time in Korea, you won a raffle.
Yeah, I won a raffle, and
crazy. Yeah,
they flew me out here, and it was like something out of a dream, right? I'm like, wait, I always wanted to go to Korea. I thought I would eventually go there on vacation, but now I'm going on this VIP tour trip through Azubu to get 5 days of a tour and then also do the finals. Not do the finals, but attend the finals, get front row seats, and for OGN the Champions Season 1. And it was just like this dream. At the time, I was like a relatively quiet kid. I wasn't a guy that was, going to go on broadcasts or anything like that. No experience. And I was just coming out to Korea just to have a bit of fun, and was incredibly excited that I got that lucky to win the raffle. So I come out to Korea, and I'm just doing it, and I'm loving it so much for 5 days that I asked them, like, hey, can I stay for longer? Is there any way I could stay or do something?
Like,
I don't know.
extend your return ticket, basically.
Yeah, and at the time, I had made friends with the guys over at Azubu that were touring us around, and they're like, yeah, you can stay on my floor, and we'll hang out every night, go out and have a bunch of fun. They were very generous Korean guys that were working for the Azubu Korea office. And so I was able to extend it a week. And at the end of that week, I was like, I can't leave. This is too much. I'm loving this so much. I have to stay. So I actually asked them for a job. And they were like, well, it's a Korean office. We don't really have much work. But how about this? We were out drinking that night. And pretty far in the night, I had asked them and built up this courage to ask. And
Right.
so they were like, what we want you to do is we want you to download Diablo 3 on your laptop, play the beginning, and write us like a beginner's guide, a leveling guide. And I'm like, I've never written an article before.
Oh, what? Wait. That's what they asked you to do?
Yeah, I was like, I'm not sure how this is. Yeah, well, they were a website, right? So they made articles and they made like video content
Oh, no,
stuff.
that makes more sense. Initially, I'm like, it would make more sense if they asked you to drink pig's blood. Valdes, what the fuck? Okay,
Yeah,
so they
to
were like,
join the cult,
okay,
yeah.
now I'm getting, because initially I was just like, that is the weirdest thing I've ever
Yeah.
heard. Okay, go ahead.
So I had this laptop with me. It was this old, like 4-year-old laptop. I downloaded Diablo 3. I stayed up all night, eventually sobered up through the night, wrote the guide, and they sent it over to Azubu, and they said,
Yeah.
we'll check this out and see if it's good, and if you pass, essentially. It was like a test, right? If you pass, then we'll hire you for something. And they sent it over to a guy that was doing a lot of written content there, and I eventually became good friends with that guy, actually.
Really?
The guy that essentially gave me the pass on the pass-fail for the test, and he was like, yeah, it's okay. Like, we can hire this guy. And then I got hired at Azubu TV. Which I was like,
God.
what is going on
Now,
here,
did you fly back to America?
I did have to do a couple of things where, like, flying back and forth, I had to get a visa, stuff like
Right,
this.
yeah.
So there was a little bit of stuff where, it was complicated to get it started, but once I started, I was like, I'm living the dream, right? I thought this was as far as it was going to go. I was going to work here for like a year. They'd probably fire me, and then I'd go back to America, right? I'm like, yeah, that's where my story is probably going to end. But I was working for Azubu, and they were making me do, like, so Diablo 3 had recently come out, and so that's where the Diablo 3 guide came in, and they made me stream a bunch of Diablo 3 on the random new stream that they made to, like, 5 viewers.
Yeah, into a black hole.
Yeah, and, write some content. I did a couple of YouTube videos for them, and eventually, like, they knew I was very good at League of Legends still, because before I came, as I mentioned, I was at, like, the top level in America at the time. So I had told them...
Diamond 1, right?
I was Diamond 1 at the time, yeah. And, which was that there was no Master, no Grandmaster, or no anything above that. So Diamond 1 was the highest it went. And so I told them that, right? Because, I went there for viewing a League of Legends tournament, essentially. So we talked a lot about League and stuff like that. And so they all knew that I was very good at the game and very knowledgeable. And so OGN The Champions Season 2 started, and that was Mole Trap and Torch.
That's right.
Yeah.
Torch, he works at Blizzard now.
He does work at Blizzard. Mole Trap, I see him every once in a while posting stuff on Twitter, just like a comment on somebody.
I saw him at BlizzCon. I think 2
really?
BlizzCons. I just gave him a hug. It was right before the finals. He waved. I ran down and gave him a hug, and then ran. I didn't have time to talk to him.
Yeah, he
I
was
had
a nice
to get
guy.
the mic test done and stuff. Yeah, he
Yeah.
was great.
It was good working with him when I did it.
These were commentators, just for the listeners. These were commentators that were out here. How long ago was this? 7 years ago?
7 years ago, yeah.
Okay.
That's when I came, 2012. So that's when they made the switch over to League of Legends. And I don't think anybody really predicted that it was going to get as big as it got. And even in Korea, like, switching over to League of Legends was like, oh, it's a new game. It might not be successful. It's a risk, right? So anyway, they were doing it. They were doing the League of Legends. And Torch, he had to go back to America for his brother's wedding during the finals. Like, they got the schedule, and he's like, I'm going to have to miss the finals and the semifinals. I'm just not going to be able to be here. I have to go to my brother's wedding. Like, there's no canceling it. It's happening. So he told OGN, and OGN was like, well, we're going to need a fill-in for when you're gone. And it was about halfway through the season, so they asked their sponsor, Azubu, like, hey, do you know anybody that could potentially fill in for League of Legends casting? And the first person they thought of was me, because I was the only person in the company that was like a native English speaker that was really good at the game, right? So they come up to me. I remember this still to this day. It was really vivid. I was like in the side room where I was like streaming, and they were like, hey, can you stop the game? We have something important to talk to you about. OGN contacted us, and they were curious if you have ever done like any broadcasting or anything like that before. I'm like, well, no. And they're like, well, they're looking for a caster for a fill-in caster for season 2 of the Champions. Would you like to do it? I'm like, what? Are you serious? And it was just out of the blue. I had gone a couple of times, right, because I was just a fan, like just to watch, and they were just like, yeah, we need someone that needs to start practicing now in order to be available for, the semis and finals for when Torch is gone. So I again, as I said before, like, I was never a guy that I didn't like doing public speaking. I had never had any broadcast experience before or anything like that. And in that moment, there was that twang of fear in my heart, right? I was like, oh, I don't want to, I don't want to go up on stage and do that. But then I was like, no, I have to do this. I can't not. It's too big of an opportunity. And so I just forced myself. I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. Okay. And so the next week, they just put me on the broadcast. Like, I guess esports back then was just a little bit more open.
It was more wild, wild west.
It absolutely was. Like,
because I think people hearing this now would be like, how could that be? And it's like, well, you get a studio out here that doesn't. Maybe they said yes to, we can fill these slots for English casting. Then, you get someone like Torch in that position. He says, I have to go to my brother's wedding. And they go, okay, we need a guy.
Yeah.
We need
a guy that speaks English.
We need a warm body.
League of Legends.
Yeah.
That's it. They didn't ask me to do like a practice cast. They may have looked at some of the content I was making for Azubu, but I kind of doubt it. So I just show up, and they're like, yeah, put on this suit and tie and get some makeup, and you're going on the broadcast. And again, it was like I was still in this dreamland. Like, I had just come to Korea maybe 4 months earlier, and I was just only then like getting in the routine of things in my new life in Korea. And then now they're asking me to do esports broadcasting.
Now, how did you go from doing that league cast to then casting StarCraft?
So I did the OGN the Champion season 2, finished it off. One of my calls to fame at the time was that I did the finals with Doublelift, who's a super famous veteran of League of Legends. He's been around forever. I think his team was in the tournament, but they got knocked out, so he agreed to hop on the cast, because I think eventually people realized, like, hey, this Brendan guy has never cast before. I think maybe they need some help, right? And getting Doublelift to help out on that broadcast was awesome. And we did the summer finals, and it started raining like halfway through. It was an outdoor finals, a very interesting moment. And after that, the next season was Monty and Doa. It was their first season of League of Legends after me.
Monty and Doa. Yeah.
So I technically predate them in League of Legends.
Wow.
in league broadcasting.
Now, because I was working with Doa at the time with GSL.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the new commentators, because over for us doing StarCraft 2, they hit the ground running so hard, GSL did, that it was like just too much work.
Yeah.
We were doing 6 days a week.
That's insane.
And it was like we were ghosts. Like, we were dead people when we get out of the studio. I mean, it was just... And also, there was no time. The game's fucking brand new. No one has had enough time to play.
Yeah.
And the broadcasts were going on super long back then, because, the show was still so fresh, and, they're having to hire new people and fire people that tell me not to say the word nerd and shit like that. But, and so we went through this whole process of just trying to hire anybody. I mean, this is how Wolf got on board.
Yeah.
Wolf applied. The same with Trevor, Torch.
Yeah.
And then suddenly on the side we hear, well, League's doing this too. I remember Dan and me being like, it didn't occur to us that there'd be another game doing this.
Yeah.
In Korea.
There should just be
There was no MOBA anything in Korea at the time. So I'm like, and now it sounds funny, but at the time, no, it was StarCraft.
Yeah. Only StarCraft.
And then carbon copies of Counter-Strike, like Special Force, Crossfire, Sudden Attack. So, I mean, we thought, what? Oh, that's weird. Okay. And then, eventually Doa teamed up with Monte Cristo, who they both now cast Overwatch League, in case you wonder if these are the same people. Yes, they were out here in Seoul doing that. And, and so then they came over there. So I'm just getting our timeline synced up.
They joined forces and became a massive duo as well. It's just weird to think, like, the time before they were just, like, hiring randoms from Azubu, right? Like, that kind of knew the game, but, you know, they weren't sure. And then Monty and Doa come in, and they were, like, actually quite good. So
they were amazing.
Yeah.
They were amazing league casters.
Absolutely. So definitely a big upgrade for OGN, right? To get these guys that eventually went on to kind of hit legendary status as an esports caster. But just to answer your question, right? I did that. I went back to Azubu. I worked until the end of the year, and then they're like, "Well, you're kind of just showing up to the office playing League of Legends all day, so we're gonna fire you."
Oh, you got fired?
Well, they didn't say it like that.
You got let go.
They sent me back to America, and they're like, we're gonna work on your visa, but we're not quite sure yet how that's gonna work.
Oh, that's a Korean firing.
Yeah,
right there. There's something about Korea where they don't want to do direct confrontation.
No, yeah.
So you're much more likely to get pushed.
But it was bad, right? Because I was like, oh yeah, I'm sure I'll be back. You know, like they're just figuring it out. I'm sure they continue want to work with me. You know, I was really young at the time too. I was 21, and a bit naive, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, sure, I'll be back, right? But then after like a month and a half, I figured it out. I'm like, oh, I got fired. Okay. Yeah, it was kind of a sad realization. I'm like, oh, I guess that's where it all ends, huh? So I was like a little bit mopey for like 2 or 3 days, but then I'm like, no, I can't give up. This can't be the end. So I was thinking of ways to get back to Korea, and I was good friends with Wolf at the time. We actually met 2012, end of 2012, right before I left Korea. We did the WCG 2012 in December in China, and we met there. That's also another cool story where, like, we were in the elevator and the doors were about to close. They were going off to their, like, hotel party where they were all going to, like, drink together.
This is in China?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was, like,
where in China?
It was
Kunshan.
Oh, it was, like, one of those, like, rural cities kind of close to Shanghai. There's a lot of them.
There's a lot. There's a lot of big cities in China.
There are a lot.
So, yeah.
And I was like the noob caster that nobody knew, and I didn't know anybody. But Wolf like stopped the elevator doors from closing. It was like something out of a movie. He's like, "Hey, you got to come with us. Like, you want to come drink with us?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, sure." And me and Wolf ended up talking for like until like 4 a.m. and just really hitting it off and becoming really good friends. From there, we went back to Korea together, hung out for about a month and a half before Azubu sent me back, and so we were pretty good friends. So I was talking to him when I was back in America after Azubu sent me back, and I was like, is there anything there that I could do? And he was like, well, there's like a bunch of these random games that nobody watches that GOM is trying to do. So there was like World of Tanks,
right,
Counter-Strike Online.
Yeah, there was this period where GOM TV was trying to expand as quickly as possible. So one thing, a little bit of history here about GOM. GOM was actually a media player.
Yeah.
What it was like an application on your computer.
You used to watch the
video.
GSL on the GOM player.
GOM player, right?
Yeah.
And they weren't doing well, but they tried to kind of pull a Netflix move where they're like, we're going to make our own content. This is all pre-Twitch, by the way. But they thought, okay, well, we're going to make our own tournaments, and StarCraft 2 is going to be big in Korea and outside of Korea. That was their anticipation. And so we'll have premium content put up here.
Yeah.
And that's how we will save this platform. And instead, the shows were so good that got bought by Africa TV, another streaming platform. And I don't know what's going on with GOM now. But the I'm sorry. So you were saying, please go ahead.
So all of that extra stuff that Gone was trying to produce while they were expanding, we didn't have the setup for English casters that we do now at the time, right? There was not that many people in Korea that were doing casting. I mean, it was you and Dan and Wolf, and then there were the league guys, and that was it. There weren't a lot of like fill-in guys that could just, stay there on the side, and you could absolutely not make a living doing just fill-in work at the time.
Or you had a series of Koreans who spoke English but were just not proficient enough to put on camera.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, this is not probably up to the standards that a Western audience is going to be okay with. The English would be sometimes garbled and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so you came back to Korea.
So what I did was I wanted to learn Korean at the time, and I'm like, well, they have to have setups where they have schools, and maybe I could get like a student visa and make it work, right? And just go there for student stuff and maybe do some casting on the side. I never thought that I was like going to become a full-time caster. That was never on my mind. I was just coming back to go to school, essentially. And, stay in Korea. That was my main goal. Number one was like, I just wanted to be back in Korea. I loved it there. It was so much fun. And obviously it was way more exciting than, the dull life of living in the suburbs or like going to college in America.
If I can ask this too, as we're having this conversation,
Mm-hmm.
what was it about Korea? I'm not trying to make us go on too many tangents here, but why did you not want to go back home? Because for a lot of people listening to this, they might be like, I mean, you're a guy from New York, right? Like,
yeah.
Why would Seoul be so much more appealing than New York?
Well, I was
New York City.
Yeah, I was going to university up in Vermont, in the middle of nowhere. It was like you would go outside the campus, and there would be a bunch of farms nearby, like a tiny little town of Middlebury, actually. That was the college, and it was a good college. Everything was good, but I was just like, I couldn't handle the isolation. Like, I had some friends there, but it was just like, I don't know, this doesn't seem right for me. So after my first year, I just didn't go back. I was like, nah, I don't really want to go back here. So I was kind of in this rut where I was playing a lot of League of Legends in my parents' attic, and I was like, I was working out, I was playing hockey, right, because I had played hockey for a long time, and I wanted to continue my dream of maybe, playing professional hockey or at least college hockey. So I was doing all that. I was kind of just like preparing for a bunch of things at the same time, because in the back of my head, I was also thinking maybe I could still do this pro gaming thing, but for League of Legends, So it was just like it was not nearly as exciting as coming to Korea, making a bunch of new friends, a new city, a new adventure, esports, casting, right? Learning a new language, meeting all these really fun, cool people. Like, it just paled in comparison, right? So for me, the choice was easy, right? Life in America was all right, but life in Korea was just a lot more fun, right? And when I first came to Korea, I was 20 years old, so I couldn't really experience the in-depth nightlife in New York, right?
Oh, yeah. You got to be 21 years old to drink in America.
Yeah. And I can't believe that's still
like such a stupid fucking law.
That's still
and everybody in America drinks before 21.
Yeah, you do it anyway. And but I didn't have a chance to like dive into the nightlife there, right?
Okay.
But when I came to Korea, the drinking age in Korea is 20, 19?
It's 19.
19, yeah.
American age 19.
Yeah, so I was able to dive directly into the nightlife, and it was something that I had never really experienced on that level, so that was also exciting.
Also, the nightlife out here is so crazy, and it's a great place to come out and party for sure.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
So then you were going to study Korean, going back to school.
I found a way to get back to Korea, and it was to get a student visa and learn Korean full-time. So I was doing 5 days a week, 4 hours a day for 10 weeks. That was one level, and I did 5 levels in total. That was over at Yonsei.
Yonsei University.
Yeah. They had their Korean Language Institute.
How is their Korean language program, by the way? Is it pretty good?
It's great if you want to go to college in Korea, or if you want to do like a job in Korea where you're going to require like a bunch of reading and writing and that kind of thing. It's not the best for speaking, unfortunately.
Really?
Yeah, there are other universities like Sogang has a pretty famous. They have a pretty famous school where they're all focused on speaking, and there's a lot of Westerners there as well. Yonsei, there was a lot of Chinese, Japanese, Southeast Asian, and a lot of those languages are very similar to Korean, whereas like English or Spanish or any other Western language is actually quite far from Korean. Like the grammar's different, the speaking style, the tones, everything is different, right? So it requires a specific way of teaching it, I feel, especially for speaking. So Sogang wanted to do that. Now, they might not be as strong in their like grammar or their reading and writing and stuff like that, but the people that come out of Sogang, I feel, are much more confident, at least, to use their Korean for speaking, because that is the focus of almost every class that they do. Like, they'll go in there and they'll just have very basic conversations right from the beginning, and that's the main focus. Whereas in Yonsei, it was like you're reading out of a textbook, and there was some speaking practice, but it wasn't the focus. So Yonsei is good, though. I mean, it's very famous for being one of the best, if not the best, for learning Korean. Can get expensive. I think it's probably up near like at least $1,600, $1,700 US for one level. But it's a lot of content.
That's not
right?
terrible, actually.
It's a lot of content. It's 200 hours if you go to every class, right? Because 10 weeks of 20 hours a week, you're going to hit that in 10 weeks, 200 hours. So you get a lot out of it. I would highly recommend it if you have the funds and the time, especially, and you're like a younger person, you want to explore like something new. It was awesome for me, especially level 1. Like some of the friends that I have nowadays.
Just real quick. So like when he's saying level 1, just for the people listening.
Yeah.
Level 1 is just beginners, then go to level 2, level 3, and you got to level 5, right?
Yeah. Level 6 is the highest.
Right.
I went to level 5. I started doing Pro League with Wolf, and I was working a lot and staying out a bit much. I was missing a bunch of classes, and I'm like, well, I did a lot. I'm not sure that level 6 is very specialized for like if you really want to do well on like a Korean writing and reading test. And I didn't really want to focus on that too much, so I eventually made the choice to leave after level 5.
Now, that is when you started doing more casting, right? And so
yeah, so that's where the story kind of goes into StarCraft 2, because I did from April 2013 to, I guess, June or July 2014, I was doing the school. But at the beginning of 2014, Spo TV got the rights to Pro League, and they needed another caster, and Wolf was my good friend at the time. He was getting me a lot of part-time work at GOM TV doing those like extra games. And he said, well, they need someone extra over at Pro League. You have a lot of casting experience. Have you ever played StarCraft 2 before? And I told him, well, yeah, that's like how I started in this esports thing. Like, not how I became a caster or how I came out to Korea, but how I first was interested, like the first esport I was interested in, and the one that I wanted to become a pro gamer in the beginning. So I told him that I could do it, and he recommended me to Spo, and we started in 2014 casting together as a duo.
And I think a lot of people would hear that and say, because I think a lot of people that watch StarCraft assume that StarCraft knowledge a lot of times is what comes first. Are you a StarCraft pro or this or that?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times for a studio, they need somebody who's got broadcast experience. Let's take Korea, for instance. They need broadcast experience.
Yeah. And
somebody who knows how to navigate Korea, that can show up, that knows the culture, the way that Korean production is done. Because the way that between LA and Germany and South Korea, the production ordering is all done differently.
Yeah.
The high rankings, it's all operates totally differently. So when you have somebody who knows that background well and is able to show up and do a good job, it's a huge difference.
That's like the main thing of importance, right? Like they want somebody who's going to be consistently there, understands Korean culture and can mesh well with it, because a lot of people come out here and, I was recommending, maybe you can go to the school, but like some people come out here and they're like, no, this is just not for me. I don't like it. I can't mesh well with it. I'm going back to wherever I came from, and that's fine. But the Korean companies want to make sure that this person is not going to just up and leave, because all of us are, foreigners that have varying levels of experience out here and time spent out here. And they just want to be safe, right, in terms of someone that is going to show up every time. And they're not necessarily concerned with, is this guy a StarCraft grandmaster, and can he break down, all the elements of the game. They're looking at other stuff first before that.
Yeah. And then, some people might hear that and say, why the fuck didn't they get that other guy? Let me tell you something. Person at home who might be saying
guy
that.
In the chat.
Every time, like, Gom TV, for instance, when we were looking for subs, we emailed every person you could ever imagine who was doing anything or capable. They all said no.
Yeah.
People did not want to move out here. People did not want to do this. And then you go, okay, well, then who's next? Mm-hmm. And you go down the list, and then that's the people that we were able to get. I mean, of course, some people at the time, they wanted too much money, and we can't pay that. It's always a negotiation, but eventually you kind of see what you get, and there's so many moving parts. I think when take GSL for instance, or the early days of League of Legends, people would say, "Why is it this guy or that guy who's hosting it?" Well, there's a lot of moving parts there. Have you thought about how long it takes to get on an airplane, travel somewhere?
It's 14 hours from New York City.
Yeah, get a work visa. Adjust. Are you okay operating down there? Can you stay? All these things. It's incredibly complicated, and so basically at the time you're the best candidate.
Yeah.
For what they had, because, and I've seen this firsthand. Is I've done shows out here with people that just do not know Korean culture. Mm-hmm. I remember this one time. Obviously, this person's going to be nameless, but just lost their shit with the staff. And that happens sometimes, where in entertainment the stress is high, but you can't behave like that.
Yeah.
Not before the show's starting. And he was yelling in his own language, which nobody knows what the fuck he's saying.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, this is just, this is alienating, and
it's kind of scary too, It's
well, also it's like, that's great that your ladder rank is that high. Nobody fucking cares right now. Okay, we're trying to get through this thing.
Also, I mean, just you were talking about the time frame of things. A lot of these companies were new to it, and they're like, oh, maybe we can just get this guy out here, and they're learning the process too. And then somebody tells them, well, we got to get them a visa. Are they going to have housing here?
And then there's weird shit that comes up, like,
and it's like a month and a half before the tournament starts, and it's like, we can't find anybody.
Well, we
need somebody in Korea.
Or he might be the ideal person for the job, but he's from the wrong country where that visa's too complicated to get.
Sure.
So there's all these different things that are happening. But you having a league background coming and doing StarCraft, to be honest, you're actually a very good StarCraft commentator. You're really fucking good.
Well, I got there over.
Well, I mean,
eventually.
I was not a good StarCraft commentator either. I think some people are probably yelling that I'm still not, but but it takes time to learn that and to get over that. But I think you're great. I think you have a very good balance too. But this is almost where I feel like as we did this interview, we were talking about casting and what it's like to be out here, and then I realized I had not actually properly introduced your history, and so to make sense of all this, because you were saying before. Well, I came into this thing and I wasn't as experienced.
Yeah.
And I know you well enough to know that you're sort of downplaying how much you actually know about games, because you're good at every game that I've seen you play.
Well,
but
I got to play it for a bit. But
you got to play it,
I'll get there.
But you're very talented. And I kind of want to bring this back full circle. And so, like, you're doing League, you're doing StarCraft. We're talking about, like, fear of criticism. Mm-hmm. You've been criticized on StarCraft Reddit, and I've been criticized on StarCraft Reddit, and Artos has been criticized on StarCraft Reddit.
Yeah.
And In Control is criticized on StarCraft Reddit every week for the rest of time. But And I genuinely don't know because I don't check the League of Legends subreddit. But I mean, are you criticized there? And what is your relationship like with subreddits and people talking about you? And I guess go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So subreddits, definitely an interesting topic. It's interesting that our job kind of revolves around that in a way. The community feedback is all kind of in one location for everybody to see and to put their, immediate opinion right in the face of everybody on the internet, including us. We're all watching.
It's such a strange concept.
Yeah, like the baseball commentators, they might find something on Twitter or something. That's like the closest you'll get if you're like a traditional commentator, I guess, right? But they don't have this horde of people who, if you have a really bad cast and you know it, you're like, oh, I don't want to check the subreddit. I don't want to see the match thread for that game, like, because you just know that if one person who is just angry about that cast, they could just go in there and be like, yeah, today Brennan sucked dick. Does anyone else agree? And then all the other people that agree, they're gonna all say like, yeah, and I don't like his voice and the way that he says fantastic. It's just not. I hate him so much, and we're gonna see that entire thread and be like, oh my God, wait, is this what people think about me? Like, did I need to ingest all this hatred of, random people, faceless people on the internet that you're never going to see in real life or interact with in any way at all? And that's why in the beginning, when I was first starting, it was like, well, I don't think it's a good idea to even check the subreddit, because then
when you were first starting in StarCraft?
Yeah, for StarCraft 2. For League, Reddit was a thing, but I don't think it was as big at the time. It was like getting pretty big at that moment. So specifically for StarCraft 2 at the time, it was already really big at that time. So you could always go on Reddit and check what people were saying right after every single game. And I remember at the time there were multiple hate threads of like, who is this guy with Wolf, or like, Wolf and his buddy, they both suck. And then it was not like a comment in the thread, it was the actual whole thread.
I think the StarCraft Reddit as well was really much more toxic back then. There was a period where the StarCraft Reddit got so bad, I swear to God, I did not read it for probably like 18 months.
Yeah.
I just didn't open it. I thought, okay, fuck this.
And it wasn't only about casters. It was about
everything.
The state of the game, about balance, about League of Legends. Like, oh, you like
kill our game.
You like League of Legends? You are banned. Like, you can't interact with us if you like that game that's not as difficult. Like, and the amount of hatred that was being thrown around. Yeah, it was bad there for a while. I think it has gotten a lot better. But yeah, I mean, just subreddits in general, to get that immediate feedback when you've had a bad cast, that can be scary. So in the beginning, I was like, I just can't go on this, because then for my next broadcast, I'm going to be so self-conscious. Like, if they said, yeah, Brendan doesn't know what he's talking about, and he just parrots what Wolf says. That was like a really common criticism that I saw a lot, and it was true. Actually, when I think about it now, I'm like, yeah, I was a new broadcaster. I wasn't used to coming up with my own original ideas, and the flow of the broadcast was strange to me. I had been doing part-time stuff for a while, but like essentially jumping on the big show, right? Pro League, a league that had so much history and expects so much out of everybody, including the casters. It was overwhelming, and so I think I was just nervous going into every broadcast. I didn't really know what to say or how to articulate myself very well yet, right? I didn't have that much experience, so at times, the first thing that would come to mind is just a build-up, or like a extra added point based off of something that Wolf said, which doesn't really make for good broadcasting, right? You want to have a conversation, right? A back and forth, and two guys that have separate ideas or, different roles, or just are able to bounce off each other in one way or another. But I wasn't doing much bouncing. We were kind of like just bouncing together, right? And I kind of knew that, right? I saw the feedback and I was like, I got to get better. Yes, but to see that day in, day out, and like to go into the subreddit and be like, oh, there's another hate thread. Here we go again.
Yeah.
That's the worst. Like, I already knew, but then to like try my best and then be like, oh, I thought I had a great broadcast, like a much better broadcast than normal. And then go in the subreddit and it's like, man, Brendan really sucked today. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
I guess maybe I should just quit then, you know? It's
Yeah, it's
yeah.
No, it's funny because you'll see. First of all, I think there's always the difficulty of a performer. You're trying to put on a show that people are going to like,
Yeah.
and that's already there's a degree of emotional nudity with that,
yeah,
right? You're
yeah.
already a little bit vulnerable, and then there's the idea of criticism and feedback, right? And one thing about the criticism and feedback is normally post-show, and this is one of the reasons why we'll all, sit down after a cast, have a beer,
Yeah.
and talk about what we thought we could do better or worse, because you're in a foreign country, and there's not a lot of hands-onness, so you're trying to do it on your own.
Yeah.
But of course, a Reddit feedback thread, it can be such a, I guess there's a humiliation of, now my work is, or my is on display, whether you agree with it or not. I mean, I've seen negative threads, never mind myself, other people too, where I say, that's not fair. Or I know what was happening with that show. That was not the issue. But yeah, in a kind of a public setting.
Yeah.
So that's already kind of alarming. And then you have the idea that if you couldn't handle or you're uncomfortable with a thread like that on the internet, that you couldn't handle normal feedback.
Yeah.
Which isn't the case either. But
No.
I and also, for what you and Wolf were doing, I think that was hard because at the time people were used to Dan and me just doing StarCraft 2 stuff. This was a problem that happened with a lot of people who are really good casters, is that because no matter who's doing it, whoever does it first, that's the norm. That's actually the standard now.
People don't like change, especially when it is from people that are already really fantastic, right? The same thing happened with Monty and Doa over at League and Papa Smithy when he first came in. When Papa Smithy first started casting, everybody was like, this guy is boring. He's shit.
And
I want Monte Cristo. Where's Monte Cristo?
and
I don't want to
Papa
listen to
Smithy,
this guy.
He's a fucking excellent
now he's
commentator.
A legend.
Yes.
Like,
but at the time,
and he got better. He improved, right? But it's not like he changed as a person. And I think he was pretty good when he first came out too. He had a lot of experience, but just the sudden change of like every day people hear Doa and Monty, and then one time it's Doa and Papa, and they're like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
I don't want to listen to him. Where's my Monty? I want that banter of years of experience that guys that have been casting together will have. That Papa and Doa, it's unfair to them to expect that same level. And Monty would come on the broadcast and say, well, I don't know if he actually said it on broadcast, but I know that he would always push for people to try to accept Papa and say, like, hey, give him a chance, and all this stuff. But I guess people will just be people, and they just didn't like the change, right? But eventually people came around to it, and Papa improved, and he built up some chemistry, I guess is the word, with Doa, and then Seth was invited out, Achilleos, and they kind of like had that going, and people just began to realize, like, when you look back at it now and you listen to that broadcast, Papa was still a great caster back then. And I think, Wolf, when he, just to talk about him a little bit, he started doing the SPO thing, the Pro League thing with me, and he didn't have a great co-caster to help him out and make the show great. We were always compared to Tasteless and Artosis, right? And you guys were very experienced. You had been friends for a long time. You had tons of chemistry, and then people would listen to me and Wolf, and they're like, this just does not compare. And that would definitely add to the hatred, right? Like, I think some people would take a step back and be like, hey guys, like, wait a minute, these guys, like, Brendan's entirely new, essentially. Wolf, he's casting with a new guy in a new kind of environment, right? And going through his own stuff at the same time in the background, and he having to deal with all of that hatred as well, like and that negative feedback. That's just, it's really hard to deal with. So that doesn't help the casting, right? And it definitely was hard there for a bit, but came out ahead on the other side, I guess. Wolf's doing really good, doing really well over at the Overwatch League, and I'm doing the league thing now. So I guess
you guys are all killing it. It's actually so cool.
Out.
When I first got out here, I actually got hate because there was a guy on YouTube who made StarCraft cast called Flazart.
Yeah.
And like, he was quite big on YouTube at the time, and his followers came after me like I had somehow, somehow done something personal.
Yeah.
To the guy, and it was weird too because it freaked me out.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't even assuming that this was connected.
It's totally
bought a
different
plane
show.
ticket and came out here, and it's a different show. And this is all StarCraft 1 before StarCraft 2, but it was very fucking weird, and stressful. I don't know about you, but now for me, and this has been me for years now, but I'm not bothered that much by online. I sometimes I find it funny. Sometimes I'll roll my eyes. But online feedback in general doesn't bug me as much.
No, yeah. I think when you're a new broadcaster, it's like you think it matters a lot more than it actually does. Like, you'll go into that thread and you're like, oh my God, I could get fired. Like, Blizzard's going to come after me. Like,
or you think that's what everybody thinks.
Yeah. Like, those vocal minority, or sometimes majority, they're like, that must be 100% of everybody. They all hate me.
Yeah.
How are you going to cast with that kind of mindset? Like, as you mentioned, it's a performance in a way. You're an entertainer. You can't go up on stage to sing at a concert and right before the concert read a whole book of comments about how ugly you are and how bad you are at singing. How are you ever going to perform under that kind of mental stress?
Yeah, what I did, because I had I don't know, I'm kind of weird. I was okay, but not okay with some of the negative feedback, because it didn't bother me that I did a bad job performing, because I felt like I knew what I needed to do to improve, but I found that collecting too much of that negative information kind of made me off in the next broadcast.
Yeah,
so
sure.
what I did was I had just had a very small number of people I trust, some friends, some not. Not like enemies, but people that I'm not really close with.
Yeah.
I said, can you watch this, and then can I sit down with you and maybe we watch it together?
Yeah.
Because there's also that weird moment where it's already difficult to watch yourself in a recording. I can do it now. It's not a problem now, but at the time,
it's awkward.
It's weird, and you go, fuck, is that me? Like,
is that really what I sound like?
I'll have this, oh, it's Tasteless. I fucking hate that guy. But yeah, it's tricky. But look, I mean, we're getting short on time here, but I think you become an excellent broadcaster, man.
And, well, thank you for saying that.
Yeah, and I think none of us. I know they're teaching esports in school now. There's like esports, and I don't know who the fuck's teaching that or what's going on with that, but we didn't go through some school to get here. And everybody's story is pretty interesting, but that people on the StarCraft Reddit are missing you now.
You mentioned this before, and I was kind of surprised, and I was like, wow, really? I mean, it's I did feel that when I left the StarCraft scene, I wasn't that fantastic of a caster. Like, I wasn't amazing or even great, right? But I guess it's all about perspective, right? Because as you improve and grow and get older, you can say, yeah, I'm better now than I was then, but maybe I was okay back then, But as you mentioned, it's very important to get the real feedback from people that are going to be honest with you, but also aren't going to throw a bunch of hate at you, right? Like, if you get a bunch of comments from somebody that you admire and trust as like a top-level performer in what you do, and they say, well, you're doing this wrong, this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. You can kind of write all that down and actually improve on it and look at it as a constructive and positive experience, whereas, just getting thrown like shit slung from the audience, basically, that's not really going to be nearly as helpful.
Well, this has been a fucking great podcast. Valdes.
I had a lot of fun. This was awesome.
Melty, was this a good podcast?
I think this is definitely a great podcast.
We have no mic from him. He says it was a great podcast. All right. Well, I think that does it. I hope you can come back on.
Yeah, I'd
And,
love to. This was a lot of fun.
If we ever, well, I think we're in the process of making this into a little money-making model, but maybe there'll be a third mic we can have set up here. We can have,
Yeah.
all three of us talking, or even all four of us. We got a dashboard here with 4 plugs, too.
Yeah.
All right, let's close it out. That does it for this interview with Valdes. Love you, buddy.
I love you too. See you next time.
Wasn't that nice? I enjoyed that episode. I'm going to go grab a beer with Valdes now. Now that we finished recording that podcast, it was a lot of fun. Guys, again, if you can support us at patreon.com/tasteless podcast, every donation really does make a huge difference. If you're enjoying this, we really do appreciate the support. And that does it for this episode of the Tasteless Podcast. Again, guys, thanks for joining us here. Do spread the word and give us some good reviews on iTunes or wherever you find your podcast. This podcast was produced by Melty, artwork by Alarise, and music by Mark Lentz. Guys, again, I love you. I am really loving this podcast. Every episode I do it better and better. And we are not stopping. You guys have a good one. I will be back in this